So this week we've been working with customers, and one of the questions that's been coming up quite a bit has been around, do I go Mac or Windows? Or more specifically, do I buy a MacBook or do I buy a Surface or a tablet style computer? G'day everyone, my name is Tom Freer and welcome to episode number 4 of the AskTomTech show. So those out there listening, there's going to be some die-hard fans either way. You're going to either be a Mac man or a Mac girl all the way through, or you're going to be a Microsoft fan. So I'm going to start this conversation off with, I'm a Microsoft fan. But I'm going to try and be a little bit impartial here and offer some advice around what you should look at using for your business and your business purposes. So if we look at the specifics around whether it's a MacBook or a Surface Pro. So for those who may not know, the Surface Pro is Microsoft's forte into hardware. So it's a tablet style device, which I have here on my desk, and they're the ones that we use and a lot of our clients use. And then you've got the MacBook Pros or the MacBook Airs, those style devices. So if we're looking at the hardware specifically, whether it's a MacBook or a Surface, there's very, very little difference between the specifications of the devices. You can get them pretty much the same spec. Notably, there's a couple of key differences and a key pros and cons for either. If we look at the Surface, it has much stronger capability in the video space with a front and rear facing camera, and a front camera at 8 megapixels, full HD, and a rear facing camera at 5 megapixels. Whereas with the MacBooks, they're a lesser camera at the front of the device. We have the display, the actual screen, very, very similar, but the Surface is slightly higher resolution, meaning it's slightly clearer than the Mac Air with its Retina display. So what's notable about the Surface display versus the MacBook as well, whilst it does have a slightly higher resolution, the Surface is fully touchscreen. So whereas the Mac isn't. The Surface is a tablet designed device. So it's got touch points all over it, drag, drop, finger movements. It also has a detachable keyboard, so you can use it as a true tablet with a stylus to handwrite on the device, which I actually use all the time. So it is quite handy. And then we come to the big one, which is battery life. And hands down, the MacBook has the longest battery life. There is no doubt about it that Mac have done a sensational job in managing battery power, battery life, with the selection of processors. Sorry, I'm taking my notes as I go. With their selection of processors and whatnot in the machines. For most businesses, the actual CPU, the processor, the brains of the computer between the Surface or the Mac, you'll never notice the difference. But if you're looking for long battery life, you then need to look at the Mac because its battery life is great. The Surface and most of the tablets in that Windows space, battery life is always a challenge. So keep that in mind. Now, the next thing that comes into play is what applications are you actually using within your business. So obviously we've got a Microsoft Windows platform versus a Mac OS platform. And they are significantly different. Different at every single layer, every single way they're managed, they're deployed, everything. So that needs to be taken into consideration. Now, the one thing that we sort of work with on our customers is around what applications are they using. A lot of the applications out there will only run on Windows. Unless you've got some sort of back-end server-based computing infrastructure, then Windows is sort of your key one. So if your application has a specific requirement for Windows, then you're going to want to look at the Microsoft range, whether Windows 10, we're now at Windows 10. Look there. If you're just sort of basic email, word processing, Excel, spreadsheets, those type of things, then either platform will work, and then it's going to come down to your preference. Again, whether you're more comfortable with Word and Excel, which is the Microsoft suite, or you're more comfortable with the Apple products or similar. So that's the what are they called? Numbers and docs, I think. You can clarify that after, but there's two there. And notably, the Microsoft Office can be installed on the Mac OS, but it certainly hasn't got the features that you would come to expect with it being running on Windows. So that's pretty, a lot of that's going to come down to personal preference. So from a technical standpoint, if you are a Microsoft user, so Outlook, Word, Excel, those type of platforms, then you're going to get far better integration using the Windows-based tablet, like the Surface. So Word, Excel, Outlook integrate really, really well with other tools like OneNote and OneDrive, where you can start syncing up all your data to the cloud and making it very, very clear. There's really no issue with running a Windows and an Outlook-based platform and using an iPhone. They sync up no problems. So it depends again what you're doing. But if you're not really using Word and Excel, and you might be using something like Google Apps or another email-based platform, and not using OneDrive and those sort of tools, and the Mac is going to do you fine. And it's going to come down to what you prefer. As I said at the beginning, there's sort of diehard fans either way, and some people you're just going to want to use a Mac, and others are just going to want a Windows, and then there's a number of people in between who are like, I just want to use the device that's going to suit me the best. So that's sort of it. That's going to come down to your personal preference. As your business expands, and where we're working in the spaces where we've got people with 10, 15, 20, 100 computers, Windows from that side of things makes it a lot easier to manage across the board, a lot easier to deploy applications, maintain applications. Apple doesn't have that enterprise scale management capability that Windows does. So that's something else to think about depending where your business is in its life cycle and size. So look, I hope that's answered a few questions. I think ultimately you need to look at three things. You need to look at what applications you're using, what are you and your team more comfortable with, and how do you need to manage that device. So if it's just you and a couple of people, you can get away with Macs. They look nice, they run well, those things are quite bulletproof. But as your business scales, and depending on the apps you're using, the Microsoft platform and the Surface being a rock solid little device will offer additional advantages as your business scales. So hopefully that helps, and I'll catch up with you next time. Thanks.